So last time we finished the chapter on psychic education and spiritual education. And today we are going to read one of the conversations by the mother on this particular chapter. So I'll just share my screen. Okay. Sagarika, you start.
Yes. Once the being has entered into contact with the psychic, why does the psychic again hide itself? It is not the psychic that hides itself. It is the being which returns to its ordinary consciousness. It is difficult for it to remain as its highest. One slides down, falls back. Only the second time the discovery is easier. And each time the road is easier until one go no longer falls back.
Okay. So this is, I suppose, simple enough, clear enough.
Yes, yes.
Go ahead.
Sweet mother, I don't understand this. Normally, this discovery of the eternal principle in oneself is associated with the mystic feeling, a religious life, because it is mainly the religion that have concerned themselves with the aspect of life. But it need not necessarily be so. The mystic notion of God may be replaced by the more philosophical notion of truth, and still the discovery will remain essentially the same. But the road leading to it may be taken even by the more tran- intransient positivist. What don't you understand? I mean that what one thinks is not of much importance because thought is formed by the surroundings in which one is born and education one has received. But that is only one way of saying this. And you can say them in all sorts of ways. They remain what they are. What don't you understand?
Okay. So I suppose this one is also clear. Any questions? Anything to say?
Sorry, I could not understand. Can you make it more clear?
This is what the mother has written in the chapter. So
Hmm.
it's only about that this person does not understand this particular statement that the mother has made. And the mother is saying experience remains the same. You can use any word to describe it, that will not change the experience. And the words you use will depend on the education you've received, where you are born, what culture, what religion, blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Will you take this up, please?
Yes.
Puja.
If the, oh, sorry, आपने बताइए. Okay.
You want me to read this?
Yes, please.
If the mystic notion of God is replaced by the more philosophical notion, it all depends on what meaning you put into the word God. It is a word, I have told you this at least 4 or 5 times, to express something you do not know but you are trying to attain, but are trying to attain. Well, if you have received a religious education, you are accustomed to call this God. If you have received a more positivist and also a more philosophical education, you are accustomed to call this by all sorts of names. And you may at the same time have the idea that it is the supreme truth. If one wants to speak of God and describe him, one is obliged to make use of things which are the most inaccessible to our consciousness, and to call God what is beyond anything we know and can grasp and be. All that is too far for us to be able to understand, we call God. Only some religions, there are some, give a precise form to the Godhead, and sometimes they give several forms and they have several gods. Sometimes they give one form and have only one God. But all this is human fabrication. There is a reality which is beyond all our expression, but which we can succeed in contacting by practicing a discipline. We can identify ourselves with it. Once one is identified with it, one knows what it is, but one cannot express it, for words cannot say it. So if you use one kind of vocabulary, if you have a particular mental conviction, you will use the vocabulary corresponding to that conviction. If you belong to another group which has another way of speaking, you will call it or even think about it in that way. I am telling you this to give you the true impression that there is something there which cannot be grasped by thought, but which exists. But the name you give it matters little. That's of no importance. It exists. And so the only thing to do is to enter into contact with it, not to give it a name or describe it. In fact, there is hardly any use giving it a name or describing it. One must try to enter into contact, to concentrate upon it, live that reality, and whatever the name you give it is not at all important once you have the experience. The experience alone counts. And when people associate the experience with a particular expression, and in so narrow a way, so closed up in itself that apart from this formula, one can find nothing, that is an inferiority. One must be able to live that reality through all possible paths, all occasions, all formations. One must live it, for that indeed is true, for that is supremely good, that is all powerful, that knows all. That, yes, one can live that, but one cannot speak about it. And if one does speak, all that one says about it has not great importance. It is only one way of speaking, that is all. There is an entire line of philosophers and people who have replaced the notion of God by the notion of an impersonal absolute, or by a notion of truth, or a notion of justice, or even by a notion of progress, of something eternally progressive. But for one who has within him the capacity of identifying himself with that, what has been said about it hasn't much importance. Sometimes one may read a whole book of philosophy and not progress a step further. Sometimes one may be quite a fervent devotee of a religion and not progress. There are people who have spent entire lifetimes seated in contemplation and attained nothing. There are people, we have well-known examples, who used to do the most modest of manual works, like a cobbler mending old shoes, and who had an experience. It is altogether beyond what one thinks and says of it. It is some gift that's there, that is all. And all that is needed is to be that, to succeed in identifying oneself with it and live it. At times you read one sentence in a book and that leads you there. Sometimes you read entire books of philosophy or religion and they get you nowhere. There are people, however, whom the reading of philosophy books helps to go ahead. But all these things are secondary. There is only one thing that's important. That is a sincere and persistent will, for these things don't happen in a twinkling. So one must persevere. When someone feels that he is not advancing, he must not get discouraged. He must try to find out what it is in the nature that is opposing, and then make the necessary progress. and suddenly one goes forward. And when you reach the end, you have an experience. And what is remarkable is that people who have followed altogether different paths with altogether different mental constructions, from the greatest believer to the most unbelieving, even materialists, have arrived at that experience. It is the same for everyone because it is true, because it is real, because it is the sole reality. And it is quite simply that. I do not say anything more. This is of no importance the way one speaks about it. What is important is to follow the path, your path, no matter which. Yes, to go there.
Clear?
Yeah, it's a bit repetitive, but yeah, quite clear.
Yeah. Yeah, because this person is basically asking the same question again. So the mother goes into a lengthy explanation. So there are two parts to this explanation. One is what we read in the psychic, the first point that the mind cannot really judge or is not of much importance in a spiritual experience. That was the first thing we read when the list of things which she suggests in the psychic discipline. And the second is she's talking about the will, again, the perseverance. So, important thing is yes, reading might help us, but unless there is practice, there is will to experience it and a sincere attempt to move towards the experience despite many failures, setbacks, everything. She says the only thing is to will it, be sincere in your will and your effort, perseverance. And then suddenly something happens. Yes, Sagarika.
Uh, why she said this, where it is goes. Uh, for these things don't happen in a twinkling. Means,
In a second, in a twinkling, in a twinkle, like
Acha,
it
okay,
it takes time.
okay.
Okay. Ila, would you like to read the next one?
Okay. Um, I did not understand the explanation of the psychic you have given. One could say, for example, that the creation of an individual being is a result of the projection in time and space of one of the countless possibilities latent in the supreme origin of all manifestation, which, through the medium of the one and universal consciousness, takes concrete form in the law or the truth of an individual, and so, by progressive development, becomes a soul or psychic being. I think somebody should translate the question. It is a little philosophical.
The question is only the first. This
Yeah,
is
yeah.
mother has written. So the question is only that I did not understand this.
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh,
Others,
different from this. Okay, fine. So it is a little philosophical. You know the difference between what is subjective and what is objective? You know it. Well, imagine precisely this reality we were speaking about, which is at the origin of all things, passing from the subjective to the objective state. That is what was within, that is, what was within becomes as though projected outside. It is the same thing. It is a state that changes. And so within it, there are all the possibilities of objective existence. Within, they are unexpressed, unmanifested. Outside, they are projected as a picture is projected on the cinema screen. We see it before us. And every element that was a possibility within a law becomes a law of a realization. And every one of these possibilities becomes a reality of a being, of an individuality, if you like, of something existing objectively. And it is that law which is the origin of the center of the psychic being. It is the truth of the being or the law of the being. The Buddha called it the law. He spoke of the dharma. It is the truth of the being. It is that which binds it again indestructibly to its origin. And that is the starting point of the psychic being. And so, even as this develops, like the picture on the screen, it takes a more and more complex and precise form in the manifestation. But the reality of that form is one. It is bound to the one. And all the units are linked together and reproduce the one. Is it not easier looking at the child? It is still more difficult, but indeed, that's what I have said here.
Any questions about this?
I'm not sure how it becomes projected and how it goes outside. I understand the fact that what you have gets projected outside, but I'm not sure what that process is.
It is the manifestation of the divine, the reason.
Do we do something to manifest it, or does it just happen? What's inside comes outside.
Sorry, say it again.
So so what she's saying is what is inside has all these possibilities, and this comes outside. This is what is projected. So what are we doing to project one thing or another, or is it something that just happens?
No. Here she is explaining how the psychic, what is the psychic and how it is projected in time and space.
But is
Actually,
it by us doing something, or does it happen automatically?
sorry?
Is it by us doing something, or does it happen automatically?
Here she's first of all explaining in general the psychic, like she said, it is there in every creed. The psychic spark is there in everything created upon earth, whether it is any living thing has a psychic spark. But then from life to life, it grows into a psychic being. Then in human life, there, depending on what we do, it becomes stronger and stronger, or it could even become weaker. So that there our role comes in, and there the importance of whether you call it yoga or living mindfully, or like she said, words are not important. If you are just trying to connect to something which is beyond words and something which is eternal, that is the psychic. So, but in this sense,
38.
sorry, who's that?
Mallika Gita 38:23.
I'm sorry, what is this sound?
No idea.
No, that was a phone call. Sorry.
Okay.
I wanted to ask the question, so I was not on mute by the time. Otherwise, anyway.
Here, when saying creation of the individual being, she's talking about how humanity or human being is created. The divine has countless possibilities latent, the supreme origin or divine or whatever you call it, the eternal, the absolute. It has countless possibilities. Just like now, when I'm speaking to you or when you are asking the question, if 5 seconds later you ask, you might use different words. So that's another possibility manifesting. Those possibilities are within us. But what we manifest at a particular time, there are several factors that determine it. Many a times we are not even conscious about that. So there are all these latent possibilities, and each individual represents in time and space, because the absolute is beyond time and space, and it is also in time and space. It is in both. So in time and space, the projection happens, and that becomes one individual, one possibility. So each of us are one possibility or one aspect of the divine. And that essence is the psychic. Yeah, Kirti, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I want to ask you. She speaks about the objective and the subjective thing, na?
Yeah.
Which is at the origin of passing from the subjective to the objective state. है ना? This is the third line or the second line after the italics.
Yeah, right.
है ना? So
Yeah.
how do we connect it now to our what she's talking about. Now, which is the subjective and which is the objective state? A little clarity on this.
It is what is within. In this context, what is unmanifested. Objective is what is perceptible by our outer senses. One can see. Once a child is born, you can see it now. So it is manifested. The individual is manifested. Once the person dies, you can no longer see them. So, in that sense, to us, they are unmanifested.
So, what is manifested, to simply put, what is manifested is objective, she means, and what is unmanifest is subjective. Very simple.
Yeah, in this case, yes. But when we also say, we use these words in other ways also, no? Subjective and objective. That if I pass a judgment on somebody, I'm being very subjective. What is the objective proof of it, what I'm saying? What is the evidence? Why am I saying that person is very smart? That person is dumbo? What is it? So if I give evidence which is concrete, perceptible to anybody, then it becomes an object. I mean, that is how in the real world we kind of talk about these things. Although, as Sri Aurobindo says, in the final analysis, nothing is objective, because even when we are being objective, it is our subjectivity that is influencing our objectivity, just to confuse you a little bit. Yes.
And also, when it says that the dharma, so it is the beginning of the manifestation of the psychic. So, doing, like, if I was to put dharma in really simple, so doing what we were born to do is the starting point of manifesting the psychic.
Root of the word dharma is dhri in Sanskrit. Dhri. Dhri means to hold. So that which holds my
Your voice is breaking, Anuradha.
oh, is it breaking for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. So that dhri is the root sound for dharma from Sanskrit, and dhri means to hold. That's why, dharti, all these words which hold, support, or other foundation. So that is what is the true meaning of dharma, not religion. Dharma is the law of your being, and each individual has a different law, because
Right.
each one has a unique possibility of the divine. That's why earlier also she says, now you follow the path, your path, no matter which. She doesn't say you have to do integral yoga or this or that or anything. She says you follow your path. What is important is that you start on this journey, discover your path. If you come to integral yoga, fine. If you go, she's speaking to children, right? So she's not saying that all of you have to now follow Sri Aurobindo and Mother or anything like that. So it is your path that you have to follow, whatever comes to you. Okay, Nishi, you want to take up? I don't know. Take up till here, maybe. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Sweet mother, you have said, give up all personal seeking for comfort, satisfaction, enjoyment, or happiness. Be only a burning fire for progress. Take take whatever comes to you as an aid to your progress and immediately make whatever progress is required. Yes, that is quite simple. It is very clear. Yes, but if I want to progress in sports, for instance, then would it be a personal progress? Wouldn't it? What? In sports? No, the value of the will depends on your aim. If it is in order to be a successful and earn a reputation for yourself, then be better than others. All sorts of ideas like that. Then that becomes something very egoistic, very personal, and you won't be able to progress. Yes, you will make progress, but still it won't lead you anywhere. But if you do it with the idea of being open, even in the physical, to the divine influence, to be a good instrument and manifest Him, then then that is very good. Not clear? Yes. Physical things are not necessarily more egoistic than mental or emotional ones. Far from it. They are often much less so. Egoism does not lie in that. Egoism lies in the inner attitude. It does not depend on the field in which you are concentrated. It depends on the attitude you have. It does not depend on what you do. It depends on the way you do it.
Okay, thank you. So, clear? This much we have covered. Anything else or comment?
Mm, Can I ask something? Please make it clear. Uh,
What is
I-
not?
Sorry, it does not depend on what you do. It's clear. It depends on the way you do it. वो तो way you do it पता है पर physical में way to do it means what sense? Like I'm doing my exercises regularly. Okay. So कभी मुझे अगर दर्द होगा तो I skip that. तो मतलब
So here, when she says way you do it, she's talking about your intention, why you are doing it, and what is the attitude you have. Who are you doing it for? So the example she gives here, that now most of us, most people in the world, if they develop a skill, it is generally for a particular result. You know, they have to compete, or they want to be successful, whether it is skill in any domain, need not be physical only. In any, when we study, you know, it is for to get a job, to do this, then to feed our family, or to earn money, or become famous, or blah blah blah, all these aims related to the outer personality, to live a material comfortable life upon earth, right? Or even if it is for the family, still it is, the aims are not to serve the divine or to serve a higher purpose, or serve something, to become an instrument for a, you know, evolution of humanity, or evolution of earth, or for perfection, or whatever. So that is what she's saying makes the difference. The progress, when you, we have to live in life, we are not going to sit in caves and meditate. So the progress has to happen through whatever work we do. So what should be the attitude in work? That it is something that you feel that you are doing, and you dedicate it to something higher. Of course, you will gain personally. It is not that you have to be a martyr and say, oh, now I'm feeling happy, I should not feel happy, then it is egoistic. It is not that. The happiness and all will come. But the reason you are doing it is not to satisfy your personal desires, although they will get satisfied, but for something else. For a more, like in Science of Living, she said, na, that your aim should be noble, disinterested, generous, all those things she said. So that is what again it is being referred to. So way is not how I bend my body or this thing. Way means the attitude I have when I'm doing the exercises. So even if you take a moment to, you know, offer and say, let all tamas go away from me through this exercise, because I want my body to be filled with light or energy, so that it is healthy to serve the work I've come to do upon earth, even if you don't talk of Mother and Sri Aurobindo, but whatever. That, you know, there is a something which is goes beyond your immediate convenience, comfort, desires, etc.
Thank you.
Kirti, will you read this, please?
Yeah. Sweet mother, you say never take physical happenings at their face value. They are always a clumsy attempt to express something else. The true thing which escapes our superficial understanding. But, mother, it is said one must not be pessimistic, and here you have said they are always a clumsy attempt. This means that the material world, just as is very awkward at expressing the truth which is behind. That is obvious. I believe we don't need to reflect very deeply to perceive that. Unless there are people, yes, in the four austerities, I speak of those who are perfectly adjusted in life and find everything wonderful, but I haven't yet met many of these who can believe it all their life through. I'm speaking of optimists. One is optimistic so long as one is healthy and very young. And then, as soon as one begins to be less strong and less healthy, optimism vanishes. But still, if one has a little sense and sensibility, it is easy to see that everything is not for the best in the best possible world. For if you yourself are comfortable and have all you need, if you are getting on well and have no cares, that does not mean that there are not millions of very advisable
You've missed
beings in altogether painful and sad situation. Then it may be very easy to think only of oneself, but it is not something very advisable. I knew people who were very rich and had never had the chance to come into contact with those who had nothing or hadn't enough. And for them, it was something unthinkable. I knew many, who lived in a very fine apartment with many servants and all possible comfort. She had always lived thus and had never known any but easy circumstances. And one day I spoke to her about someone, a person of great worth and merit, but who had nothing, hadn't enough to eat. And I asked her to help that person, not with money, for she would not have accepted it, but with some work or by inviting her to pass some time with her, for she had a philosophical mind and could have helped intellectually. So I told her, she doesn't always eat her fill. I saw that she did not understand. I said, well, yes, she does not always have enough money to buy food, buy bread, and what she needs to eat. But surely there is always bread and food in the kitchen. Laughter. She said that so spontaneously.
It's like Marie Antoinette. If there is no bread, let them eat cakes. So she's not saying that be pessimistic, but she's also questioning optimism and showing its limitations, and somewhere pointing towards true optimism, which can only actually rest upon faith and deep and wide understanding of why there is pain in the world in the first place.